Okay, so I would like to introduce to you Skinny Rick. He's my skeleton, and what's so important about him today is I'm going to be asking you to really attend to your sits bones. Male or female, we have 2 sits bones. And if you sat on a bleacher for too long, it's these sits bones that get really annoying. So as you're in your chair, you can wiggle around, put your hands underneath your seat, and you feel these sits bones. And you can also see with the skeleton how rounded our sits bones are. And I'm going to ask you in this lesson to really dial into and get a sense of rolling forward and backward of your sits bones. So I'm going to move Skinny Rick off to the side. If you can put your hands on his head. And I'm going to come forward in my chair and notice how my pelvis is forward in my chair. My feet are flat on the floor. My hands are just resting in my lap. This is my home, my neutral sitting position. And we're going to tilt our pelvis back. So the back of your waist comes closer to the back of the chair. And when you round yourself back, you may find yourself looking down toward the floor. And then slowly bring yourself back up to your neutral home position. And we're going to repeat that movement several times. You just move in your range of ease and comfort, taking it slow, taking it easy, noticing how you roll to the back side of your sits bones, your whole back rounds, and you're looking down at your lap. And the next time that you come through your sit, now we're going to tilt our pelvis forward. My belly button comes closer to my lap. My back has a little bit of an arch in it. And I'm looking out at the horizon, and then come back to your home, your sit, and do just the forward tilt a few times, noticing how the weight transfers into your feet as you tilt your pelvis forward. Your feet instinctively there to keep you from falling forward. And now let's blend the two. We're rounding ourselves back, looking down towards your lap, coming up through your normal home sitting position, and then tilting yourself forward. Your back has a bit of an arch. You take this in your own pace. I'm going to observe in gallery view. Beautiful. And when you've had enough of that, we take a break. We take a lot of breaks in the Feldenkrais method. And the reason for the breaks is there's a lot of things to attune to in a Feldenkrais lesson. Starting out, and that first step was the sense of your sits bones. So our next step, I'm going to bring Skinny Rick back in to show you. We're going to pan out so you can get a sense of Skinny Rick. And don't worry, I have a modification for you. If your hands don't go comfortably on top of your head, I have a modification that I'll show you in a bit. But for right now, what is key to this part of the lesson is the connection, our head to our arms. But what's really cool, the arms connect into Skinny Rick's shoulder blade. And zooming into his shoulder blade, you get a sense of how our shoulder blades wrap around our ribs into our spine, and zooming out now, whatever I move, that's good, the shoulder blade, this Skinny Rick's whole torso moves. So I can, when I'm doing this all with this one hand, controlling Skinny Rick's movement, okay? So I'm gonna take him off to the side and we're gonna give it a try, okay? So you'll be in your comfortable seated position and you're forward in your chair, your feet are hip distance apart, and you can modify this movement by cupping the palm of your hand in your cheek, okay? I'm going to illustrate, as this lesson was intended, to interlace my hands and put them on top of my head, okay? Now you're going to dip one elbow, it doesn't matter which elbow, because we're gonna do both, to the side and come back up to your neutral dynamic sitting position. And do that several times where you're dipping one elbow to the side. Notice how the other side totally opens up along the ribs and come back to your neutral. One more time, dipping to that first side that you chose, and then follow through and dip to the other side. Now remember, you are in charge of ease and comfort. So you only do what's easy and comfortable. Make the movements smaller, make them slower, do the side that's most comfortable. And I'm going to observe in gallery view. Beautiful. And you keep doing this by looking forward. Okay? You're looking forward. If you tend to look down to the floor, you're rotating a little too much. Tilt it forward. Go to camera view. Beautiful. You guys are doing great. Let's take a break, okay? And while you take a break, I am going to show you how to modify the next lesson or the next part of the lesson. Again, we'll be seated in our chair. I'm going to turn mine to the side so you can see me. And we have talked about how to modify these movements, going slower, going smaller, and doing your most available side. So it comes into play with this next part. I'm seated in my chair. My feet are comfortable hip distance apart. And what we'll be doing is taking our hand and sliding it down our leg. And when you do that, you're rounding your spine. There's a bit of a rotation. And my hand is going to go in the direction of the floor. And then I'm going to ooze it back up to my dynamic sit position. Now, some of my students have told me that they like to bring the floor up a bit. It's just easier, more available, more comfortable for them. That's where the folded towels come in. So a couple of ways to use these. I could put two towels down here on the floor near my feet so that when I slide my hand down, the towels are there for me to touch. The second chair is also in front of me. I can put my fingers on, basically I've just raised the floor. Okay, so we're gonna do this together. in seated, hands on your lap, and I am going to start on my left hand because that's what you can see most clearly in the camera. You do the side that's most comfortable for you. I'm going to slide my left hand down the outside of my left shin. I'm going to let my gravity be my friend. My head hangs, my arm dangles, and then I ooze it back up to my dynamic sitting position. I look out at the horizon and inhale. And I'm going to repeat that again, taking my left hand down the outside of my left shin. And notice how there's a bit of a rotation and more weight going into your left foot, and ooze it back up to your sit and inhale. Now the other side. So the right hand going down the outside of the right leg. I sometimes just close my eyes, let gravity take me. My head dangles, my arm dangles. My hand is directed toward the floor. And I ooze it back up. I inhale, and we're going to repeat that one more time, taking the right hand down the inside of, down the outside of the right leg in the direction of the floor. And I intentionally use the term direction of the floor so that it is just a direction. There's no goal of trying to get to the floor. Now, back to camera view. If everything is easy and comfortable, we're going to increase the rotation. So I'm going to take my left hand, nice inhale, rotate my whole torso, and slide my left hand down the inside of my left leg in the direction of the floor. And then I'm going to ooze it back up, and I'm going to do that one more time. Taking my left hand, rotating my whole spine, sliding my left hand down the inside of my left leg. I'm looking off to the right. I feel more weight going into my left foot, and I ooze it back up. Now, as we continue this lesson, we add in variations, and you only do what's easy and comfortable. Nice inhale, taking your right hand, sliding it down. Notice the rotation because you've got to get this shoulder closer to your right thigh. And you just let your head dangle. Your left hand is just out of the way. And ooze it back up. Sitting dynamic and tall, and then repeat that movement. The right hand going down the inside of the right shin in the direction of the floor. I could put my hand here on the chair, on a towel down here, if I want to. And only if everything is comfortable and easy so far, we're going to increase the rotation of your spine. So you have a choice. Stay with the previous variation, go slower, go smaller, do your most available side. I'm going to take my left hand, nice inhale, rotate so that my left hand can go down the inside of my right leg. And I'm looking off to the right. My head dangles. And I ooze myself up to a nice inhale. And repeat that one more time. Left hand, rotate, slide your hand in the direction of the floor. And roll yourself back up to a dynamic sitting position. And one last variation. Inhale, rotate so that your right hand can go down the inside of the left leg. And just let gravity be your friend. Your left hand is out of the way. And ooze yourself back up. And one last time, oozing your hand down in the direction of the floor. Your hand may be on the chair, it could be on the towel. Ooh. And a dynamic sit, looking out at the horizon. Shake it out and let's take a break. Okay. And like I mentioned, you don't need to wait for me to take a break. You take a break when you feel that you need to. I am going to bring Skinny Rick back into the scene, and I need his seat. Okay. I'm going to do my best to hold Skinny Rick here in his chair. I have this microphone leash, and my husband, Rick, who's adjusting the camera, he's going to try to zoom out a bit so you can see. Okay. Okay. So Skinny Rick is set up here, just like you are sitting. Okay. He's forward in his seat. His legs are hip distance apart, and his arms are just dangling on his lap. And we're going to talk about the physics. Okay, notice that as his hands go lower and lower, his head goes lower also, his pelvis lightens. And I'm just holding on to him right here in the middle of his ribs. But what's really cool, as his head lowers, look at his pelvis is coming up. As his head comes up, his pelvis lowers. And this is like a teeter-totter. I'm not doing much with this finger here. I'm just enough to show you this teeter-totter effect, which helps us rise to get up with ease. And then as we lower our head lower and lower, our pelvis can sit back soft as a feather. So we are going to experiment and discover where this teeter-totter effect is in each one of you. Okay? So you're seated in your chair, hip distance, your legs are a hip distance apart. You may have your second chair right there in front of you. You may have your towels down on the floor in between your feet. And this time, only if it's easy and comfortable, we're going to take both our hands and slide them down along the inside of both of our shins. So I'm sitting up, I'm looking out at the horizon, my hands are on my lap, I wiggle around to get a sense of my sit bones and slide my hands downward. My head hangs. Notice how the weight goes into your feet, and then ooze yourself back up. And do that one more time, taking your hands down. I'm going to observe in gallery view. Notice how as the lower your head goes, more and more weight goes into your feet. And as you bring your head back up, that weight transfers back into your pelvis. Now, I want you to change the position of your feet. So bring one foot a bit closer and repeat that movement, sliding your hands down in the direction of the floor and ooze yourself back up and slide and wiggle around, change up the position of your feet so that the other heel comes closer to the chair and the other foot is flat on the floor below your knee. Press both of your feet into the floor so you get a sense of the support that you can gather from the floor. Hands on your lap, sliding down with your hands going down in the direction of the floor and ooze yourself back up. Feel free to change the position of your feet. We're noodling around. Where do you get the most support from the floor? So one heel is most likely closer to your chair. When you slide that heel closer to the chair, it's in the runner's position. So it's just the ball of your foot that's in contact, and the other foot is flat on the floor right below your knee. Press both feet into the floor. And when you feel like you're solidly connected with the floor, take both your hands down along the inside of your shin in the direction of the floor. Let your head hang, your arms dangle, and then round your whole spine back up. And then we're going to take a break. Okay? So remember, you do not need to wait for me to take a break. You take a break when you need to. So the Feldenkrais method uses a lot of imagination in the effort to get us moving in a way that we may not be accustomed. This next move may sound really odd to you, but it's amazing how it mobilizes our spine. So my favorite ice cream is chocolate peanut butter, mint, and cherry Garcia. It's easy for me to imagine a triple-decker ice cream cone right out in front here that I would love a lick. All three flavors mixed in together, oh yeah. So this next step is also written where I am bringing my forearms down to my lap. And you may say, that's not available for me. I'm going to show you a modification. But first, let me show you the move so that you get the full picture. I'm going to bring my forearms down to my lap. I'm looking here at my hands. My chair may or may not be here. That depends. Notice the shape of my spine from my tailbone all the way to the top of my head. I'm looking down at my hands. My spine is rounded. Now I'm going to imagine that ice cream cone and I want to take a look and notice what happens with the upper part of my spine when I look at that cone. I'm going to come back. Now I'm going to add in not only looking, but taking an imaginary lick on that cone. Okay, so I'm looking down here at my hands. My spine is rounded. I look. Now I lick. And I'm going to do that one more time. I'm rounded, looking down in the direction of my feet. I now come up to look at my ice cream cone. Physically, I stick out my tongue and lick and ooze myself back. Now, I promised you a modification. Okay, so I can modify by placing my hands here. Okay, I basically raised my lap. That's one modification. I can raise my lap with these two towels, like this. I'm still on my forearms. I've just raised my lap. Another modification is I can put my hands on my lap and see, I'm real close to my forearms being down on my lap. It's just a little security. So take a moment to get adjusted to the modification that you need. You're sitting forward in your chair. Your feet are flat on the floor. Your forearms are on your lap or raised lap or your modification. And you're going to imagine that triple decker ice cream cone right out in front of your nose. So notice the shape of your spine at the very beginning of this movement. Follow that from your tailbone to the top of your head. And now look at your ice cream cone. Stick out your tongue. Your back wants to arch a little bit, and then round yourself back when you get to the top of the cone and come in for another lick. So you look at your cone, that starts the arch of your back, then stick out your tongue and rounding yourself back. So this is not an easy move. It's very, very challenging, but also delicious in how it mobilizes the upper part of your spine. After you've done that a few times, take a break, wiggle it out, shake it out. A delicious move that is just, oh, talk about mobilizing your spine. Okay, our next step is to combine the ice cream, the licking of the ice cream, arms sliding down our leg. We're going to put all of that together. So notice how I keep adding in layers. You only do what's easy and comfortable. Okay, so you have several choices. Make it slower, smaller. Stay with the previous version. You can just imagine the movement and you'd be surprised at how much of your system, muscular, neurological system, engages when you just imagine the movement. So this is one of the final steps, okay? We're going to play around with that balance point that I showed you with Skinny Rick. And if we find that, then we'll rise to stand. Only if everything is easy and comfortable and you're in charge of keeping in your range of comfort. So come forward in your seat, wiggle around to get a sense of your sits bones. Play around with your foot position. Could you take the camera down so they can see the different foot position? I'm going to bring the heel that's closest to you back close to the chair. It's in the runner's position. My other foot is just out here right below my knee. And the first thing I'm going to do is press my feet into the floor so that I get a sense of the stability that I get from the floor. When I press in, it lightens my tush away from the chair. My hands are on my lap, and I'm gonna glide my hands down in the direction of the floor and out in front just a bit. And I'm gonna look at that ice cream cone when my head gets low. And I'm gonna ooze it back. We're gonna gradually build this up. And when I come back up, I'm in my dynamic sitting position looking out at the horizon. Feel free to adjust your feet, because that's how you're going to learn what is the most stable place. So you may choose to bring the other heel closer to your chair. One foot is right under your knee, hands are on your lap, sliding your hands along the inside of your shin, not only down, but out in front. And when your head gets low, look at that ice cream cone and notice how the weight is in your feet, and you're gonna ooze it back up, sending the weight back into your pelvis, rolling yourself up slowly, coming to your home, your neutral, your dynamic sitting position. Feel free to move around the position of your feet. That's how you're going to learn. And hands, repeat that again, hands sliding down. If you want to, your hands may be on the chair in front of you. They may be on the towel. Notice how the lower your head gets, the lighter your pelvis. And you may press your feet into the floor. You may be able to slide a piece of paper under your pelvis as your head goes low, and then sit your pelvis back down and roll it back up. Now, only if all of this is coming together, you have found a good stability in the position of your feet, you are beginning to discover that balance point. As your head gets low, your pelvis lightens. As you bring your pelvis back down, your head comes up. If you want to, we're going to work to ooze ourselves up to stand. It's a slow movement. So our hands slide down. You may put your hands on towels, on the chair. As your head gets low, your pelvis lightens. Unbend your knees, unbend your hips. The arms are just dangling down. And I come up slowly to rise, looking out at the horizon. Notice the position of your feet, and we are going to reverse that movement. So our head was the last to come up. So to reverse it, you lower your head looking down toward the floor. The hands are directed down in front of your feet. You're bending your knees, your pelvis, your hands may be coming down toward the towels or that chair. When your head is about the level of your pelvis, then you can sit it down on the chair and finish rolling, unrolling your spine, coming back to your dynamic sitting position. Okay. Wiggle around in your chair. Make sure that you're forward. Feel free to change up the position of your feet. And let's do that again. Only if it's in your range of ease and comfort. Okay? So hands are on your lap. Sliding your hands down in the direction of the floor. They may be touching the towels, the chair. When your head gets low, your pelvis lightens
unbend your knees and your pelvis, rolling yourself up to the standing position with your head is the very last thing to come up. Look out at the horizon. Notice the position of your feet and get a sense of how this compares to when we started the lesson. Now sit down, reversing that movement. The head, the arms come down, you bending your knees, your pelvis. When your head gets down to about the level of your pelvis, you can sit your pelvis back. And how would you now describe that movement in comparison to the beginning of the lesson? Maybe it's soft as a feather. It's probably quieter. I'm going to go into gallery view. Feel free to try that another time or two, or take a break. You're in charge of the comfort. I so appreciate everyone taking good care of themselves. Oh yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Cool. I'm going to look here at my notes. And speaking of notes, I told you at the beginning of the class that I took all the notes for you. Now, the Homework Council on the Arts, after each class, sends you a survey. We're always into suggestions on how to continue to improve. We are all together learning how to operate in this virtual Zoom world. So I'm very thankful to all your feedback and suggestions. When you get that survey, you will also get a link to this handout, and you will also get a link to the video of today's class. So our next week, we teach again Wednesday and Saturday at 9:30 in the morning. Next week's class is titled Turn with Ease, and it is dynamic for helping you bend, even drive, walking. Our ability to turn and rotate our spine helps in just about every facet of our life. The entire lesson can be done in sit. And again, you're in charge of your ease and comfort. So this class is brought to you absolutely free. A huge thank you to the Northwest chapter of the American Parkinson Disease Association and the Homework Council on the Arts. So if you feel that this class has been helpful, be heartful and consider a donation to either one of those organizations. So now I mentioned my husband has been helping me off to the side here and monitoring the chat. Here's all my contact information. I'm going to take a look at the chat, and there's been a few people commented in the chat that they have adjusted the movements to suit them. I love it. You're in charge of ease and comfort. You know best what your range of comfort is. So hats off to you for making those adjustments along the way. I am going to, my first time on polling is the final question. How do I get to that? I wanted the next question, end poll, and Okay. I will have to review how to get to the next poll questions. Show me a thumbs up if you felt that you got up and down with greater ease. Whatever that means to you, more comfort, more assured, more solid, softer landing. Give me thumbs up. Ooh, I'm getting a lot of thumbs up. So I'm always up for questions and feedback. I will see you again on Wednesday, next Wednesday, and Saturday is Turn with Ease. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye-bye.